What would you do if you suddenly received $10 million from your bank on accident? Well, that's exactly the question that a couple from New Zealand once had to ask themselves, because that's exactly the situation that they somehow found themselves in. In the end, they chose to flee the country with their newfound wealth to try to desperately hold on to it and make a new life for themselves on the run. To their shock, however, an international manhunt was soon launched to find them and bring them to justice. And what resulted was a story that would later be made into a movie. And believe it or not, if the couple were given a chance to make their choice all over again, they might not have acted differently. Welcome back, guys. My name is Andy Jang, and this is Hidden Stories. In 2009, a 29-year-old man named Leo Gao was really frustrated with life. From a really young age, he had always dreamed of starting his own business and becoming extremely rich. That had always been his one big goal in life, to make a ton of money for himself so that he could live to the fullest and do everything that he had always wanted to do. Unfortunately, however, every single one of Leo's business ventures so far had completely failed, leaving him basically broke. And the one last business that he owned, a small British petroleum gas station in the town of Rotorua, New Zealand, was really struggling and was on the verge of going under as well. As a result, at the time, Leo was extremely unmotivated and depressed, feelings that were only further intensified by his rocky relationship with his girlfriend, Kara Hurring. But one day, as Leo was just casually checking his bank account, he suddenly couldn't believe his eyes. A few days before, he had successfully applied for an $100,000 loan with his bank, Westpac, to renovate his gas station so that he could sell it. So that was the number he had expected to see. But somehow, the actual number in front of him read a mind-blowing 10 million New Zealand dollars, or around 7 million US dollars. And the moment Leo really processed the sheer life-changing weight of this amount of money, he just couldn't help but holler out loud, "I'm f***ing rich!" But although Leo and his girlfriend Kara were both ecstatic and were already dreaming about all the things that they could buy and do with $10 million, they both knew that it had to have been a mistake and that the money wasn't actually theirs. The couple figured that Westpac would soon notice the mistake and that the money would all be gone the very next morning. When the next morning came though, Leo was shocked to find that all 10 million was still there in his bank account, able to be withdrawn and used whenever he wanted. It was at that very moment that he and Kara really considered for the first time, what if we actually used this money? In their minds, they could easily justify spending it, since after all, the money was in Leo's account, and it wasn't exactly illegal to steal from yourself. As a result, Leo soon had around 6.8 million New Zealand dollars, or around 5 million US dollars, withdrawn from his account, and carefully placed into 23 different bank accounts around the world, including in the Cayman Islands, the Bahamas, Mexico, and Macau, China. Since Leo had always been the one to take care of all of the finance-related issues in his relationship with Kara, he never even told her that he was doing any of this, or about his plans to launder all of their money through casinos in the gambling hub of Macau. In Leo's mind, he was protecting Kara, as well as their 6-year-old daughter Lena, by not telling them. He knew very well that Westpac would soon come after him for taking their money and running, and he didn't want his actions to put his family at any sort of risk. As a result, after only enjoying a single fancy meal with Kara, the day after the money had accidentally landed in his account, Leo took off on a flight to Macau, China, without telling anyone. When Kara came home and realized that he was gone, she felt completely abandoned. She had figured that she and Leo would make the decision about what to do with the money together, and him leaving without even saying goodbye greatly hurt her. When Leo landed in Macau, he met with his dad, who lived there. Since his dad had long worked in the casino business, Leo had wanted to confirm with him whether his plans were a good idea, to clean all of the money he had received by making it seem like they'd come from gambling wins rather than an accidental bank transfer. When his dad approved of this idea and also connected him to a trusted casino that he had worked with for a very long time, Leo finally began to relax a bit and believed that things might actually work out. His conversation with one of the representatives of this casino also went very well, which helped alleviate even more of the worries and anxieties that he had felt about running away with all of this money. As such, just a couple days after Leo had arrived in Macau, he called Kara and told her where he was. Although Kara was obviously furious with him for leaving her and their daughter Lena without even a single word, Leo apologized, admitting that it was completely his fault, but explaining that he had just wanted to make sure that everything was safe before having them join him in Macau. Since this made sense, Kara decided to forgive him. Following Leo's instructions, she left a note at their gas station stating that they'd gone out of business and told all of their friends and family that they were going on holiday. Then she took Lena and boarded one of the next flights to Macau, leaving everything else behind, including even their pet kitten. Leo had told her that they would be gone for 3 weeks at most, just taking a nice vacation to get everything sorted out. But little did the couple know that wasn't at all what would happen, and they would never be able to return home under normal conditions ever again. Although Kara knew that what Leo was doing in Macau was very dodgy and likely even illegal, she wasn't about to pass up on an opportunity like this, since, like Leo, she had long wanted a better life for both herself and her daughter as well. When she first arrived in Macau, it really seemed like this better life was finally becoming a reality. The resort suite that Leo met her at was extravagant beyond her wildest dreams and looked like it cost a fortune. Almost every meal that Kara sat down to eat with her family was suddenly 5-star dining, consisting of many items so fancy that she had never even heard of them. And before long, Leo was regularly playing with tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands of dollars every single night at the casino, money that would have taken them years to make in their old life. It was the first time that Kara, Leo, and Lena had ever experienced being truly rich, truly untouchable. They felt like royalty, and nothing seemed real at first. They would spend their days lounging in luxury, sipping on martinis next to gorgeous resort pools, without a care in the world. But almost as soon as this new fantasy life of theirs started, it ended. Leo suddenly began losing big at the casino tables, including once burning over $100,000 US in just a single night. To make matters even worse, it was revealed that Leo's dad, who had connected Leo with this specific casino in the first place, had never actually had his son's best interests at heart. Since Leo had confided in him that all of his newfound wealth had technically been stolen from Westpac Bank, his dad had decided to take advantage of this fact by manipulating his son into signing predatory casino contracts that took an insane 50% of the money that he had deposited and earned in fees. Although this percentage was way higher than the fees that were normally charged, Leo's dad knew that his son could do nothing about it since his money had been illegally obtained. As a result, Leo and Kara soon found themselves unfairly down hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. When they angrily confronted Leo's dad about this though, furious that the man had put his business before even his own son, Leo's dad and the casino representative became outraged as well. Leo and Kara didn't know it at the time, but they had picked a horrible fight to take. In fact, the couple believes to this day that had they not angered Leo's dad and the casino, Westpac Bank may have actually never realized their mistake. Very shortly after this argument took place, an anonymous source from Macau tipped off Westpac about a missing $10 million that they might want to look into. When Westpac investigated this lead, they were shocked to discover that one of their employees had indeed accidentally misplaced a decimal and sent a man named Leo Gao $10 million instead of the correct value of $100,000. After firing this employee, Westpac immediately began working with local police in New Zealand to raid Leo and Kara's home. From there, they realized that the couple had already transferred most of the $10 million into various different bank accounts all across the world and had also fled the country themselves. As such, they soon began working with Interpol and other agencies to launch an international manhunt for them. Since Leo and Kara had used their own passports to leave New Zealand, the authorities were able to quickly track down their location in Macau. However, since New Zealand didn't have an extradition agreement with China, there was actually no real way for the authorities to go and arrest Leo and Kara. Despite the fact that they had the couple's exact address, there wasn't much that they could do but just wait until the couple traveled out of China to a country where they could be extradited. So, Interpol and Westpac began dedicating all their time and resources to recovering all of the money that had been lost instead. Before long, they had managed to successfully drain most of the foreign bank accounts that Leo had set up around the world. When Leo realized what had happened, he began panicking. He, Kara, and Lena were on the run at the time and had been for several days already, bouncing around from hotel to hotel in China, anxiously trying to avoid what they assumed were countless cops trying to track them down. They knew that they were being hunted and that people wanted justice. They'd seen their names and faces plastered all over the news and all over the television broadcasts. They had seen the footage of police officers raiding their home and of reporters interviewing their friends and families about their whereabouts. Leo and Kara knew that they desperately needed money in order to not only continue avoiding the cops, but also to build a new life for themselves after they were able to get to safety. So, without all of the funds that Leo had carefully hidden all around the world, they were basically screwed. Out of the 10 million that Leo had originally been given, he now only had just a couple $100,000 in cold hard cash that he had stashed away in a local bank under a fake name. It was a good amount of money, but absolutely nothing compared to the goose egg that Leo and Kara had assumed they still had. The stress of losing pretty much all of the money that Leo had worked so hard to try to keep, to try to clean, to try to turn into his new reality ended up just being too much for him to bear. Shortly afterwards, Kara woke up one morning and found that he had just left, once again, without even saying goodbye. She was now completely alone in China, a foreign country where she barely even spoke the language, with her 6-year-old daughter on the run from Interpol with absolutely no possessions or money to her name. Leo had taken everything with him. Although Kara felt completely hopeless and wanted to kill Leo, she knew that she had no choice but to be strong for her daughter. She had to find a way to get some money. Since Leo had asked her, maybe intentionally, to be the one to put her name on the player's account that they had opened at the casino in Macau, Kara knew that she was probably the main criminal that the police were after, even though everything that had happened was almost entirely Leo's fault alone. But despite just how frustrated and furious Kara was about being looped into her boyfriend's crimes like that, it also gave her a unique opportunity. Since she had kept a good amount of the chips that she had received at the casino, she knew that if she returned to Macau, she'd be able to cash them out and receive a good amount of money. It would be an extremely risky trip since she had to take a flight to get there, and she was scared that the moment someone recognized her, she would be arrested and handed over to Interpol to be tried for her crimes. However, since Kara desperately needed the money, she felt that she had no other choice. Extremely lucky though, she was able to make it to and from Macau without any issues. With a bit of money that she had managed to acquire, Kara rented an apartment for herself and Lena and began trying to build a new life for the two of them. The next few weeks and months were some of the hardest in her entire life. Kara had to find a new job for herself, which was already difficult enough as it was since she didn't speak much Chinese. But amid all of the job application rejections that she was receiving, she soon realized that she had also become pregnant with her second child. Before long, other complications began coming up in Kara's life as well. Her dad passed away, and she was unable to attend his funeral since she was a wanted fugitive who couldn't return home. Her relationships with her sister and mom began to both significantly deteriorate. She was held at knife point by a stranger in a road rage incident. She was hospitalized for severe dehydration, and she began feeling extremely lost and lonely, and also increasingly anxious about her past crimes catching up to her. Although Kara did manage to eventually find a new job for herself doing English voice acting, enrolled Lena in school, and made some new friends, she wasn't happy at all. When times got really tough, she genuinely considered just returning back to New Zealand to turn herself in and face the repercussions of her actions once and for all. It was what her family wanted her to do, and deep down she knew that it was the right thing to do. As such, in May of 2010, after Kara had been a wanted fugitive for around a year already, she decided to call Mark Loper, a senior detective from Rotorua who had been working on her case with Westpac and Interpol. Although she kept in contact with Mark over the next few months, she just couldn't bring herself to actually give herself up. She was terrified of the uncertainty that came with it, whether she would go to prison and what would happen to her daughter. But in February of 2011, after Kara had been on the run for almost 2 entire years, she finally cracked. She voluntarily flew back into New Zealand and was immediately arrested. Over the next year, she would be put on trial and found guilty of 30 different charges related to theft, dishonesty, and money laundering. However, since a judge ruled that Leo had been the main culprit behind the crimes and that Kara had largely been manipulated by him to help him in his illegal acts, she was only sentenced to just 9 months of home detention in order to pay back around $10,000. As for Leo, he was arrested by Interpol 7 months after Kara turned herself in when he made the mistake of traveling to Hong Kong, which does have an extradition treaty with New Zealand. Incredibly, he had actually managed to gain a sort of following while he was on the run and had supporters all around the world that viewed his story as a kind of Robin Hood tale. A Facebook page had even been set up called "We Support Leo Gao and his $10 million. Run, Leo, run." Despite this, however, Leo eventually pleaded guilty to theft, admitting that he had behaved like a dick and was sentenced to 4 years and 7 months in prison. Interestingly, he would only end up serving just 16 months of the sentence before being freed. As of the last news coverage on this case in 2012, out of the around $7 million that were accidentally deposited into Leo's bank account, Westpac had only been able to recover around $3 million. It's unknown whether the last $4 million was ever recovered, or whether Leo was ever made to repay the money that he had gambled away, lost, or just spent. In 2019, however, a movie called Runaway Millionaires was made about this true story, with help and testimony from Kara Hurring herself. At the end of this movie, Kara states that although her experience was a nightmare and included some of the lowest points in her life, she's not sure whether she would have done things differently. She says that she learned a lot of great lessons about greed, family, friends, and love from her journey, and also learned that money is far less important than she had initially imagined. Take care, guys, and I'll see you all next week.